The galaxy was young when Earth still shone like a bright jewel in the black sea of space. Its blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds made it one of the most beautiful worlds ever found. The people of Earth, the humans, were clever and curious. They had no great fleets, no interstellar empire. Yet they grew in knowledge faster than any species before them. They built machines that could think, ships that could touch the edges of their own solar system, and weapons that could destroy whole cities in a moment. Many alien worlds watched in silence. They wondered if humanity might one day rise to join the Great Galactic Council, the powerful union of ancient species that ruled much of known space. But within the council's grand halls, fear began to grow. The leaders remembered old warnings from their history. Species that rose too fast were dangerous. Those who learned faster than others often became the ones who ruled. The council's oldest members saw the pattern and decided they would not allow it to happen again. A meeting was held on the shining world of Saran, the council's seat of power. The chamber was shaped like a great circle, with each member world having a seat. The air shimmered with the voices of hundreds of alien envoys. In the center stood the High Speaker, a tall being with skin like polished stone. His deep voice carried across the chamber as he spoke of Earth. The humans are growing too quickly, he said. They will not bow to the council. They will not be controlled. If we wait, it will be too late. Some delegates protested. They said humanity had not even left its small star system. Others argued that the humans should be guided, not destroyed. But the voices of caution were drowned out by the cries of fear, old rivalries, past wars, and greed for Earth's resources all fed the decision. The vote was taken. The decision was final. Fleet after fleet left council shipyards, gathering into a force larger than any war in living memory. They traveled through wormholes and across deep space. Until they reached the edge of the Sol system, their weapons were ready. The attack began without warning. Cities burned as energy beams cut through the air. Oceans boiled where orbital bombardment struck. Mountains fell, and forests turned to ash. In ours, Earth was a dead world. No call for peace was heard. No surrender was taken. It was not war. It was cleansing. Millions of humans died in the first moments. Others were taken by force to alien worlds, sold as servants, or forced into labor. A few small ships managed to escape into the dark, carrying survivors who refused to give up. But they had no safe place to run. The council controlled almost every known star. When the smoke cleared, Earth was silent. The Galactic Council wrote the final record in its history books. Humanity has been removed. The threat is ended. They believed it. Years turned into centuries. Centuries became millennia. The memory of Earth faded from the galaxy's mind. The word human became a rare sound, spoken only in old archives or forgotten stories. Most who heard it thought it was just a legend. The few surviving humans were scattered, hidden in the deep shadows of alien society. But the truth was different, far from the eyes of the council, in a lonely corner of the galaxy. A group of human survivors built a secret home. It was not a beautiful world like Earth. It was a cold, rocky place lit by a faint red star. They named it Haven. Life was hard, but they endured. They learned to repair the alien machines they had stolen. They studied every scrap of technology they could find. Generations passed. Each child was told the story of Earth's fall. Each was taught the names of the cities that once stood, the rivers that once flowed, and the sky that once shone bright with a yellow sun. They grew up with a single promise: one day, humanity will return. The council never searched for them. They thought humans had no strength left. They thought a race without ships, without armies, could never rise again. They did not understand human patience. On Haven, patience became a weapon. The people learned to hide. They sent spies into the galaxy disguised as traders or workers. These spies returned with maps, technology, and knowledge of council weaknesses. Human minds worked faster than ever. They took alien ideas and improved them. They built ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen, small, fast, and deadly. They also built something more powerful than weapons. They built unity. There were no kings, no empires. Only one purpose shared by all: to take back what had been stolen and make the galaxy remember. The name human died in time, even their language changed. They spoke in ways the Council could not easily understand. Hiding messages inside common trade words, they learned to use the stars themselves for cover, jumping from system to system without leaving traces. Still, they waited. 5,000 years passed. 10,000, 100,000. The children of Haven still learned about Earth as if it had been lost yesterday. They carved the shapes of its mountains into stone walls. They painted its oceans in the ceilings of their homes. They told its story every night by the fires. The galaxy forgot them. The Council turned its attention to other wars, other rivalries. Old species fell. New species joined. Power shifted again and again. None of the new rulers remembered the destruction of Earth, and those who found the old records saw them only as myths. But in the darkness beyond the Council's reach, the humans were still there, stronger, smarter, waiting 500,000 years. After the firestorm that ended their world, the time came. The leaders of Haven stood in a hidden war room carved deep inside a mountain. Screens showed the paths of Council supply ships, the positions of patrol fleets, and the locations of key communication hubs. The air was tense but calm. Mira, the chosen commander, looked over the maps. Her eyes were sharp. "We have waited long enough," she said. "Now they will learn what patience has given us." No one spoke. They only listened. They had been waiting their whole lives to hear those words. In the far reaches of space, engines came to life. Ships that had been hidden for generations began to move. Their hulls shimmered with strange metal. Their weapons glowed faintly with stored power. No one in the galaxy had seen such designs before. The first human fleet in 500,000 years was ready, and somewhere, deep in the silent ruins of Earth, the wind carried the dust of old cities across the broken land. It was as if the world itself was waiting. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the humans were coming home. And they were not the same people the Council had tried to erase. They were something far greater, something the galaxy would never forget again. Haven was not a world anyone would visit by choice. Its sky was dim, lit by a red sun that gave little warmth. The land was rocky and dry, with long winters that froze rivers to stone. Yet for the people who lived there, it was the safest place in the galaxy. The planet's location was a secret. No Council maps showed its name. No trade routes came near it for thousands of generations. The humans of Haven lived with one purpose: to grow strong in the shadows. They built underground cities hidden from sensors. The walls were lined with metal that scattered scanning waves, making them invisible to ships passing above. In the largest of these cities, known as Deep Hold, the central hall buzzed with activity. Dozens of engineers worked over strange machines. Some built from human designs, others taken from alien wreckage. Sparks flashed as new weapons were tested. Holographic maps showed hundreds of star systems. Mira walked through the hall, her steps firm and steady. She was the commander chosen to lead humanity when the time came to step into the open. Her hair was dark, her eyes sharp, and her voice carried quiet authority. She stopped beside a long table where John, the best pilot on Haven, was explaining a new fighter craft to a group of younger trainees. "This ship," John said, tapping the hull with his hand, "is small enough to hide inside a freighter's cargo bay. It can slip past sensors, then launch in seconds, fast enough to dodge most weapons, strong enough to cut through any patrol." The trainees listened with wide eyes. To them, ships like this were more than tools. They were symbols. For 500,000 years, humans had been powerless. Now they had something the Council feared: speed, surprise, and the will to fight. Mira moved on to the war room. There, large screens displayed the movement of the Galactic Council's fleets. Each glowing dot represented a warship, station, or convoy. Over the centuries, human spies had mapped almost every corner of Council space. One of her advisors, an older man named Ren, pointed to a cluster of red marks near a trade hub. "These are supply ships for the Council's western sectors. They carry fuel, food, and parts for their fleets. Without them, their ships will sit idle." Mira studied the map. She knew that striking now would reveal humanity's return, but waiting too long might mean missing the perfect chance. Are the attack wings ready? She asked. Nodded. Every pilot is trained for this moment since birth. While their leaders planned, the people of Haven continued their work. Children learned to read from books about old Earth. Farmers grew crops in underground gardens. Lit by artificial suns, scientists tested new alloys, making armor that could shrug off energy blasts. The people knew they might never see Earth restored in their lifetime. Yet they worked as if it could happen tomorrow. Their lives were short compared to the endless years the Council had ruled. But their patience was deep. Far from Haven, the humans' hidden network stretched across the galaxy. In distant markets, traders who looked like ordinary merchants sold food and tools. In truth, they were spies, gathering information and passing secret messages. Some worked on Council ships as mechanics, slipping tiny devices into engines to track their location. Others served in alien armies, learning tactics that would one day be used against them. The most dangerous of all were the infiltrators. These were humans who altered their appearance with alien disguises, blending perfectly into other species. They sat in council meetings, listening to plans, stealing codes, and sending them back to Haven. One such infiltrator was Lena, a quiet woman, who worked in the archives on Saran, the Council's capital world. Surrounded by vast shelves of history, she found the old records of Earth's destruction. Many files were locked, but human skill in breaking alien systems was unmatched. She copied the files and sent them to Haven. The records showed more than the attack itself. They revealed the Council's fear, their vote to destroy humanity, and the lies they told to hide it. These files became the proof that one day would be shown to the galaxy. Back on Haven, Mira and her closest advisors prepared the first move. They would not strike the Council's main fleets yet. That would bring too much attention too soon. Instead, they would target small but vital points, supply convoys, isolated stations, and relay satellites. John was given command of the first mission. His task was to intercept a convoy near the border of Council space. The convoy's escorts were light, expecting no danger. The attack would be quick, leaving no survivors to report what happened. Before the mission began, Mira spoke to the pilots. In the hangar, "You were born for this," she said, her voice steady. "Every hour you have trained, every risk you have taken, was for this moment. We will not destroy the Council in one day, but this is where it begins. Remember the faces of those who came before you. Remember Earth." The pilots saluted, their eyes hard with determination. When the mission began, the human ships moved like shadows. They hid in the wake of passing freighters, masking their heat signatures. They jumped between systems using secret routes the Council had never mapped. At the edge of a quiet system, they found the convoy. A dozen cargo ships moved in slow formation, with 4 small escorts flying ahead. John gave the order. In seconds, the human fighters burst from hiding. Their weapons fired streams of energy that tore through the escorts before alarms could sound. Cargo ships tried to scatter, but the human craft were too fast. One by one, the ships were disabled. Within minutes, the battle was over. John ordered the cargo destroyed and the wreckage scattered to make it look like a pirate attack. The humans left no sign of who had truly struck. The Council would hear of the loss, but they would not yet know the truth. Back on Haven, news of the missions. Success spread quickly. Children cheered. Workers in the mines stopped to listen to the broadcast. Elders who had waited their whole lives wiped silent tears from their eyes. It was only a small victory, but it was the first in 500,000 years. In the war room, Mira studied the next targets. She knew the Council would begin to notice patterns. If they struck too often, so each mission would be carefully planned, they would hit, vanish, and wait. The galaxy thought humans were gone. Soon, it would start to wonder if the old stories were true. In the quiet of her quarters, Mira looked at an old image, a faded map of Earth's continents. She traced the lines with her finger. Soon, she whispered. And in the dark reaches of space, the Council's fleets moved on, unaware that a storm was building just beyond their sight. The Council had not yet noticed the small losses in their eyes. The galaxy was too large for a few missing ships to matter. Convoys vanished all the time to pirates, space storms, or navigation errors. No one thought of humans. On Haven, that ignorance was exactly what Mira wanted. Every move so far had been small, hidden under the noise of everyday trade routes. But now it was time for something bigger, something that could not be ignored, yet still kept humanity's identity. A secret dot in the war room. The air was thick with quiet voices and the hum of projectors. A glowing image of a council communication hub spun slowly in the center. The hub was not just a relay station. It was the largest link in a chain of satellites that connected 3 sectors. Without it, fleets would be blind, and planets would lose contact with their governors. This, Ren said, pointing at the image, is the Kavar relay. It has a defense ring and 30 patrol ships, but no heavy fleets nearby. It is a perfect target. Mira studied the data. Destroying the Kavar relay would cause chaos. Council fleets would not know where to go. Supply routes would break. Orders would be lost. The hub sat in a quiet system, far from the main capital worlds, which meant fewer reinforcements. How? Long until they can repair it if we strike. Mira asked. Months, Ren replied. They will have to rebuild it from the ground up. John stood beside them, arms folded. It will be risky. Patrol ships will call for help the moment we attack. Mira nodded. Then we strike fast and leave nothing for them to follow. The mission was set. 2 squadrons of human ships would approach from opposite sides of the system. One squadron, led by John, would engage the patrols, drawing them away from the station. The other, carrying heavy bombers, would target the relay's core dot in the hangar. The crews prepared. Mechanics loaded torpedoes with warheads designed to overload the relay's shield generators. Pilots checked their navigation routes, committing every turn and jump to memory. No ship could afford to get lost. As the fleet left Haven, the red sun faded behind them. The silence in the cockpits was broken only by the steady voices of navigators calling coordinates. Hours later, the Kavar system came into view. The relay hung like a silver ring in the dark, its long arms stretching out to massive dish arrays. The patrol ships circled it slowly, their lights blinking in rhythm. Remember, John said over the comms, we have less than 10 minutes before reinforcements arrive. We go in, hit hard, and disappear. The attack began with sudden violence. John's squadron burst out of a shadowed asteroid belt, weapons blazing. Patrol ships scrambled to meet them, thinking it was a pirate raid. Keep them chasing you. Mira's voice came through calmly. The bombers are moving in. The second squadron, unseen by the patrols, glided toward the relay's core. Torpedo locks sounded in the bombers' cockpits. One by one, the weapons fired, streaking toward the station. The first volley slammed into the shield, making it flicker. The second tore through, sending shards of glowing metal into space. On the relay, alarms blared. Operators shouted in alien tongues, struggling to track the attackers. Without warning, the third wave of torpedoes struck the core. A bright flash filled the void as the relay's central array exploded outward. John's squadron broke away, diving toward their escape route. The bombers followed, engines flaring bright in the relay's control room. A commander shouted into a comm channel, but the signal cut out. The hub's own destruction had silenced it. By the time reinforcements arrived, the attackers were gone. All that remained was a drifting ring of twisted metal and sparks fading into darkness. On Haven, the mission's success was met with silent satisfaction rather than loud celebration. This was war, and there was no room for wasteful pride. The engineers were already studying data from the battle to improve the next strike. But in Council space, the reaction was immediate and loud. The destruction of the Kavar relay sent shockwaves through 3 sectors. Fleets could not receive orders. Colonies missed supply shipments. Trade halted in dozens of systems. The Council convened an emergency meeting on Saran. The great circular chamber was filled with worried voices. The High Speaker pounded his staff for silence. This was no accident, he said. This was an attack on our unity. Whoever is behind it must be found. Some blamed pirate coalitions. Others accused rival powers. but a few whispered a dangerous thought. Could it be the lost species? One delegate, an old historian with pale skin and dark eyes, spoke softly. 500,000 years ago, there was another people who rose too quickly. We removed them. But if even a fraction survived, the room fell silent. Many delegates had never even heard of humans, and those who had thought of them as nothing more than myths. The High Speaker dismissed the idea. If humans still lived, they would not have the power to do this. The threat must come from elsewhere. Still, the thought lingered in the minds of some. The attack had been precise, clean, and fast, traits remembered in old records of human tactics far from Saran. Mira listened to intercepted council broadcasts. She could hear the confusion in their voices, the uncertainty. That uncertainty was a weapon, and she intended to use it. We will not give them time to recover, she told her advisors. Our next strike will be in a different sector. They will chase ghosts. John grinned. Then let's keep them running until they don't know which way is up. The war in the shadows was beginning. Each move the humans made would be another cut in the council's control. They would not reveal themselves yet, not until the galaxy was ready to see the truth. On the dark side of Heaven's moon, shipyards worked without rest. New vessels rolled out of hidden bays, their hulls polished and weapons loaded. The humans had waited long enough. Now, every strike brought them closer to the day when the council would finally learn who they were fighting. And when that day came, the galaxy would remember the name humanity with both awe and fear. The K'Var Relay's destruction was not something the Galactic Council could ignore. For the first time in centuries, whole sectors were silent. Fleets drifted without orders. Governors ruled without guidance, and trade routes lay empty. On the capital world of Saran, the council's grand chamber filled with voices. The chamber was a vast circle of stone and light, with seats rising in tiers for hundreds of delegates. Above them, a giant dome showed a live projection of the galaxy, its stars shining like scattered dust. The High Speaker struck his staff against the floor, and the noise slowly faded. The destruction of the K'Var Relay was an act of war. He said, "We must find the attackers before they strike again." A tall reptilian delegate from the warlike draft species hissed. "Pirates do not have this kind of precision. Whoever did this knows our defenses too well." From across the chamber, a silver-skinned delegate from the merchant race then spoke with a cold tone. If the draft fleets were not so slow to respond, perhaps this would not have happened. The two delegates began to argue, their voices rising. Others joined in, blaming rivals and pointing fingers in the shadows of the chamber. An older delegate named Solan sat quietly, watching them. His species, the Vera, were scholars and keepers of history. Few listened to their words these days, but Solan had seen more centuries than most in the room. He remembered something others had forgotten. He pressed a button on his desk, and his voice cut through the noise. "This attack," he said slowly, "reminds me of something from our ancient records." The chamber fell silent. 500,000 years ago, Solan continued, there was a species called human. They came from a world called Earth. They were clever and learned faster than any other. The council feared them and acted. Murmurs spread through the room. Many delegates looked confused, never having heard the name. The High Speaker frowned. "That was before even my ancestors' time. Those stories are myths. They were not myths." Solan said firmly, "I have read the records. The council sent fleets. They burned Earth to ash and scattered the survivors. But humans were difficult to kill. They adapted. They learned from their enemies. The way K'Var was destroyed, fast, clean, and without leaving a trace, matches their old tactics." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. The draft delegate laughed, a sharp sound. "Humans are dust and forgotten graves. If they lived, we would have seen them long ago." Solan leaned forward. "Perhaps you have seen them, but not known it. The humans could hide. They could wear the face of another. They could wait for as long as needed." The High Speaker struck his staff again. "Enough. We will not chase ghosts. This council will focus on the real threats, not old legends." The meeting continued, but Solan could see it in their eyes. Seeds of fear had been planted. far from Saran, in the hidden depths of Heaven's war room. Mira listened to the intercepted recordings of the council session. A small smile touched her lips. They are beginning to suspect, Ren said, standing beside her. Good. Mira replied, fear makes them slow. Doubt makes them weak. We will give them more reasons to doubt. She turned to the large Galactic map. Red markers showed the Council's primary fleet bases. But Mira's attention was on the smaller yellow marks, communication nodes, supply depots, and research labs. These will be our next targets, she said. We hit them in 3 different sectors, all at once. They will think they are fighting an enemy everywhere. John stepped forward. And still we keep our identity hidden. Yes, Mira said. Not yet. The reveal must come when the galaxy is watching. In the weeks that followed, the Council's unease grew. 3 attacks hit them in the same month. A deep space fuel depot vanished in a silent explosion. A research lab's entire database was wiped clean, leaving its scientists staring at empty screens. A convoy of military supplies was found drifting, its crew unharmed but unable to remember what happened. The Council tried to respond, but every time they moved fleets to one sector, another strike happened far away. The galaxy's news networks called the unknown attackers the Shadow Fleet on Saran. Rumors began to spread among the lower officials. Some spoke of old files being quietly locked away. Others said certain high-ranking officers had started searching for any trace of a species called human. Soren worked in secret, digging deeper into the archives. He found grainy images of early human starships, simple by modern standards, but with a style unlike any other. He compared them to blurry security footage from the recent attacks. The shapes were different, but the movement, the precision, the way the ships vanished after striking, it was too similar to be coincidence. When Soren presented his findings to a small group of trusted allies, most were skeptical. But one younger delegate, a fox-like being named Triv, leaned forward with interest. If this is true, Triv said, then the Council made an enemy that waited 500,000 years to return. That is a kind of patience I have never heard of. Soren nodded gravely. If they are truly back, then they will not stop until they finish what they came for. Back on Haven, Mira stood in a quiet observation deck overlooking the planet's largest shipyard. Below, vast construction bays built warships under the glow of artificial lights. The sound of machinery and the scent of hot metal filled the air. John walked up beside her. They're afraid, he said, even if they won't admit it. They will admit it, Mira replied, when we stand in their capital. They will remember what they did to Earth, and they will understand why we came back. John looked down at the shipyard. When do we stop hiding? Mira's gaze stayed on the stars. Soon. But first, we make sure they can no longer stop us when the truth comes out. On Saran, in the deepest part of the Council's archives, Soren opened a locked chamber. Inside, in a glass case, sat a fragment of a metal plaque. The ancient letters etched into it read, "Humanity will endure." He stared at it for a long time. Feeling a weight settle in his chest, the old historian whispered. To himself, perhaps they already have. The galaxy was restless, trade lanes were slower, fleets were scattered, and fear whispered through the corridors of power. No one knew who the Shadow Fleet was or where it came from, but everyone agreed on one thing: this enemy was unlike any they had faced. On Haven, in the underground war room, Mira stood at the center of a glowing map. Around her, the senior commanders waited. Rin, John, and a few other trusted leaders had been called for what Mira described as the turning point. She looked at each of them. We have struck in silence long enough, she said. The Council still thinks this is a war of shadows. It is time they see the face of their enemy, and it is time the galaxy knows who we are. The room was quiet. Everyone understood the risk. The moment they revealed themselves, the Council would throw every fleet they had at humanity. But it was also the moment they could gain something more powerful than secrecy, support from others. Who hated the Council? Ren leaned forward. If we reveal too early, we may not be ready for the storm that follows. Mira nodded. Which is why we must choose our stage carefully. We will strike at the heart of their trade empire. The Venspire Station. The Venspire was not just a trade hub. It was the largest market in 3 sectors, visited by ships from every race. Its central tower broadcast trade data, news, and entertainment to millions. If humanity took control of it, even for an hour, they could send a message to the entire galaxy. John smiled. A message they will never forget. Weeks of planning followed. Human infiltrators, disguised as workers and traders, were already moving through the Venspire's lower decks. They mapped security patrols, found weaknesses in the station's shield grid, and installed hidden transmitters to bypass the Council's censorship systems. On the day of the strike, hundreds of ships filled the Spire's docking rings. The station's air was heavy with the scent of exotic foods and the noise of countless languages. Merchants argued over prices, entertainers played music in the plazas, and visitors admired the massive crystal dome that gave the Spire its name. Beneath this normal scene, the human fleet waited in the cold darkness just beyond sensor range. In a small maintenance bay, Lena, one of the infiltrators, gave the final signal. All systems ready. You have a clear path to the broadcast core. Understood. Mira's voice replied over the secure channel. The attack began with precision. Human fighters slipped into the station's perimeter under the cover of riving freighters. In seconds, they disabled the outer defense turrets. John led the assault squad into the docking ring, his team moving swiftly through the confused crowds. The council guards, unprepared for an organized assault, fell back toward the inner levels. While John's squad held the guards' attention, Mira's team reached the broadcast tower. They stormed the control center, securing it before the operators could send an alarm. Engineers plugged in a small device, one of Heaven's most carefully guarded inventions. It bypassed the Council's tightest data locks and opened every channel on the station. Mira stepped into the center of the room. Cameras turned toward her, broadcasting her image to every display across the Spire, and then, through the trade network, to millions of worlds. The screens and markets, plazas, ships, and homes flickered. Conversations stopped across the galaxy. Beings turned to see a human face, the first most of them had ever seen. Mira's voice was calm, but carried the weight of centuries. I am Mira of humanity. 500,000 years ago, the Galactic Council destroyed our home, Earth. They feared us because we learned quickly, because we would not bow. They burned our cities, poisoned our skies, and scattered our people. They call it justice. We call it murder. In the Council's chamber on Saran, delegates froze as the broadcast filled their screens. We have hidden from you, Mira continued, not because we were weak, but because we were patient. We learned your languages, your trade routes, your fleets, and your secrets, and now we have returned. This is not a plea for peace. This is a promise. We will not stop until justice is done. Her eyes burned with quiet fire. To every world that has suffered under the Council's rule, know this, you are not alone. Humanity remembers what it is to fight. Stand with us, and we will stand with you. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The Council's security forces tried to cut the broadcast, but the human device kept the signal flowing. On distant worlds, miners stopped their work to watch. Farmers in the fields listened on portable receivers. Merchants in busy markets froze as Mira's words echoed from every screen. Some smiled. Others whispered in disbelief. On more than one oppressed world, cheers broke out. When the broadcast ended, human ships began to withdraw. The Venspire's security forces scrambled to respond. But the attackers were gone before reinforcements could arrive. The station shields came back online just in time to see the last human vessel vanish into a jump corridor. On Saran, chaos filled the council chamber. Delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others warned that if the humans were telling the truth, then the council's history was stained with a crime that could unite half the galaxy against them. The High Speaker slammed his staff for silence. We will crush them, he said. This so-called humanity will be erased once and for all. But Solren, the historian, stood slowly. You cannot erase an idea. You destroyed their home. And yet here they are, stronger than before. Every fleet you send will only prove their words to those who already doubt us. His warning went unheard. Orders were given. Fleets were mobilized. The Council declared a full state of war against humanity. Back on Haven, the war room was alive with reports from across the galaxy. Small colonies were sending messages of support. Rebel groups long hunted by the Council now offered to fight alongside humans. John leaned back in his chair, grinning. Looks like you made some friends. Mira didn't smile. We've made enemies too. The Council will come for us with everything they have. But now, they're not the only ones we're fighting for. We've started something bigger than ourselves. Ren looked at the growing list of allied worlds. This is no longer just about Earth, is it? Mira shook her head. No, it's about the galaxy. And this time, we're not the ones hiding. Far above Haven, in the cold black of space, the human fleet moved into new positions. The era of shadows was over. The war for the galaxy had begun. The galaxy had changed. Where once humans were forgotten, now their names spread like wildfire. Worlds that had long suffered under the Council's rule began to rise. Some sent messages of support. Others opened their ports to human fleets. Humanity had become a symbol of resistance, and the Council could not stop it. On Haven, Mira stood before the largest star map the humans had ever built. Red markers showed Council fleets. Yellow markers showed neutral systems, and blue markers were allies. Each line of movement was a carefully planned strike. We cannot let them concentrate their power. Mira said, every fleet they send must be divided. Every sector must feel our presence. We hit fast, and we disappear before they can respond. Ren nodded. We have enough pilots for 3 simultaneous campaigns. All weapons are ready. Our allies are prepared. The time to move is now. John tapped his finger on the screen. Then let's give them a lesson they will never forget. The first strike was precise. Human fleets entered the edge of Council space from hidden jump carters. Patrols were bypassed or destroyed silently. Key supply depots were taken out, leaving fleets stranded without fuel or parts. On some worlds, human fighters disabled defense grids and allowed allied rebels to seize control. Every attack was fast, every withdrawal left no trace of human strength. But the Council began to notice the pattern. They were fighting an enemy who struck everywhere. It seemed to belong nowhere. In the central command on Saran, the High Speaker slammed his staff on the floor. We cannot contain them, he shouted. Every fleet we send is too slow, too scattered. Who are these humans? Soren stepped forward. They are the survivors of Earth. Every strike, every plan you have witnessed, it is the work of humanity returned. They have studied your ways and learned faster than any species before you. They will not stop until you are held accountable. The Council's leaders argued for hours. Some wanted diplomacy, some demanded all-out assault, but every decision was delayed by fear. The humans had forced hesitation into the Council's halls, and hesitation was their first victory. In space, the war moved quickly. Human fighters used alien designs they had improved over centuries. They outmaneuvered Council ships, using speed and clever tactics rather than brute force. Bombers struck stations and relays, cutting communication and supply lines. Fleets without support were easy targets. John led a squadron toward a fleet transporting elite troops. The Council fleet was well armed, but its formation was predictable. Human pilots used high-speed jumps between asteroids, appearing suddenly to strike the enemy from unexpected angles. Torpedoes ripped through hulls, and soon the remaining ships were scattered, their soldiers fleeing in escape pods. Every battle is a lesson, John said over the comms. We learn, we adapt, and we strike harder next time. Mira listened from Haven. She studied the reports, marking patterns and weaknesses. We will not lose a single ship unnecessarily, she said. Every victory must strengthen us for the day we reach their core worlds. The human strategy was not just about destruction. It was about inspiring others. On dozens of worlds, people had been oppressed for centuries. Seeing the humans fight gave them courage. Rebel groups once too small to act began seizing planets. cutting off council-controlled in one industrial world. The humans disabled orbital cannons and let locals take control of the city centers. Factories that had built ships for the council now turned to produce supplies for the human allies. News spread quickly across communication channels, showing human success and encouraging uprisings. The council's fleets began to suffer from internal distrust. Governors accused each other of failing to protect worlds. Fleets hesitated. Fearing ambush, human strikes were small but calculated, creating confusion at every turn. Mira knew the war could not be won by simple raids. She began coordinating with allied worlds. Engineers from captured council labs shared knowledge. Scientists studied alien weapons and improved them. Pilots trained with allies, sharing tactics that had been refined over hundreds of thousands of years. On the bridge of a flagship, Mira spoke to her commanders. Every system we free, every fleet we disable, brings us closer to the Council's core. But we must remain united. We cannot afford division, not even for a moment. Humanity survives because we fight together. The galaxy survives because we fight together. The commanders nodded, understanding that the human advantage was not just ships and weapons. It was the unity and patience that had carried them across 500,000 years. Council worlds began to fall. Supply routes were cut. Communication hubs were destroyed. Fleets sent to recapture lost systems often arrived too late or were ambushed along the way. Panic spread quietly at first, then openly. Governors sent frantic messages demanding help. The High Speaker ordered reinforcements, but each fleet had to move carefully, knowing humans might strike anywhere. The humans, however, did not rush. Each strike was planned, each movement precise. They never overextended, never revealed their full strength. Allies continued to rise, and humans used the growing coalition to strike larger targets. In one daring move, human bombers attacked a major council arsenal. Torpedoes tore through shield generators, while fighters engaged defense ships. By the time reinforcements arrived, the arsenal was destroyed, leaving the council unable to replace lost ships quickly. Every attack strengthens us, John said as his squad returned. Every attack weakens them. Soon, they will have nothing left to fight with. Mira's voice came over the channel. And when that time comes, the galaxy will remember who they underestimated. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity endures. The council began to realize the truth. Humanity was not a lost species. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was everywhere, striking from the shadows and growing stronger with every fight. Soren watched the reports in horror. They have waited 500,000 years, he whispered. They are not just taking revenge. They are reclaiming the galaxy. In Haven, Mira smiled faintly. Every battle, every strike, every freed world was a step closer. They had made the council hesitate, doubt, and stumble. The galaxy was awakening to the idea that the council's power was not absolute. The war across the stars had only just begun. But humanity had learned to endure. Humanity had learned to unite, and humanity had learned to win. The council had never faced a threat like this. Every system they controlled was under pressure. Fleets were scattered, supply lines destroyed, and fear had grown among their governors. For the first time in their long rule, the galaxy doubted them. On Haven, Mira studied the galactic map in the largest war room. Blue markers of allies were spreading across the stars. Red markers of council forces had become fewer and smaller with every campaign. The humans had turned the council's own empire into a map of vulnerability. We have done more than strike, Mira said to her commanders. We have shown the galaxy that the council can be defeated. Now, it is time for the final step. John leaned on the console, eyes fixed on the map. Their main fleets are gathered near Saran. If we take that system, the council will fall. Ren nodded. It will be dangerous. Every ship they have will be there. But they are weaker than we think. Their forces are divided and exhausted. Mira looked at the three leaders. We will strike not just with force, but with precision, patience, and strategy. The council will see what humanity has learned over 500,000 years. The humans prepared their fleets in secret jump carters around the Saran system. The largest fleet humanity had ever assembled waited in silence. Fighters, bombers, and warships lined up, engines humming softly in the void. They had trained for this moment for generations. Every pilot knew their role. Every commander understood the stakes. Mira stood on the flagship bridge, looking out at the black emptiness of space. "This is the moment our ancestors dreamed of," she said quietly. "Every strike, every sacrifice, every hidden plan, it all leads here. Humanity fights not just for revenge, but for justice and freedom." John tapped the controls, shields and weapons ready. "Jump carters are clear. Waiting for your order, Commander." Mira nodded. "Begin operation. Strike fast. Strike together." The fleet jumped into the system silently. Sensors of the Council were overwhelmed immediately. Their screens lit up with dozens of contacts, all moving toward the capital world. The Council fleet, confident in their numbers, assumed it was a small raid. They were wrong. John's squadron dove first, weaving through the outer defenses. Torpedoes hit the first line of capital ships, causing explosions that lit up space. Council commanders scrambled to understand what was happening, but every response was delayed. The humans moved faster, smarter, and with coordination the Council had not seen before. Mira's warships struck the relay stations and communication hubs first. By cutting their signals, the Council could not coordinate reinforcements efficiently. Orders arrived too late, ships moved into traps, and panic spread inside the main fleet. Human fighters darted like shadows. They struck escort ships, disabled turrets, and created openings for bombers to reach the largest vessels. Each strike was precise, leaving the Council fleet reeling. On Saran, the High Speaker watched from the central chamber as reports flooded in. "Impossible," he shouted. "They cannot be everywhere at once." Soren, standing nearby, shook his head. "It is the humans. They are here. They have waited. They have learned. And now they are showing their strength." The High Speaker turned, eyes blazing. "We will destroy them. Every world they touch will burn." "They will not flee," Soren said softly. "They will not break. They endure. That is why they will win." The battle raged across orbit and in the skies above Saran. Human ships avoided unnecessary destruction of inhabited zones, focusing only on strategic targets. Bombers struck capital ships, fighters engaged reinforcements, and smaller fleets freed planets previously under Council control. John led a daring maneuver through a gap in the Council formation. His squadron hit the rear line, disabling shield generators of the largest battleship. Explosions tore through its hull, sending the ship tumbling into a neighboring cruiser. The remaining fleet began to falter, their movements less organized, their confidence shaken. Mira's flagship moved forward, taking advantage of the disruption. It targeted the Council's central command ship, the one housing the High Speaker and his advisors. Human torpedoes penetrated the shields, forcing the command crew into emergency pods. The symbol of Council power had fallen. On the surface of Saran, citizens and workers watched the sky. They had never seen humans in their history. But broadcasts hijacked by human signals showed a new reality. Blue and silver ships glided gracefully, disabling weapons and guiding civilians to safety. Some Council soldiers surrendered, realizing the humans did not fight recklessly. But with intelligence and honor, the Council's empire was unraveling. Reports came in from dozens of systems. Fleets surrendered without a fight. Governors opened their doors to human allies, and planets long under strict rule declared independence. The galaxy was waking up. Humanity had returned not only for revenge, but to restore freedom. In the war room on Haven, Mira studied the communications. Allies cheered. New worlds pledged support. Every strike strengthened the coalition. John leaned back in his chair. "They're falling apart faster than I imagined." Mira nodded. "It is because we fight differently. We do not destroy the galaxy to take it. We fight to free it. That is what makes us human. And that is why we win." Ren added, "Their fleets are retreating. Their stations are under our control, and the High Speaker is gone. We have broken the Council's grip." Mira's eyes glimmered with determination. "Now, We give the galaxy a choice. We show them what humanity can build, not just what we can destroy. The final broadcast was sent. Across the galaxy, every world tuned in. Mira's image appeared, calm and strong. The council has fallen, she said. For centuries, they ruled with fear. For 500,000 years, they thought humans were gone. But we endured. We returned not only to claim justice for Earth, but to free the galaxy from tyranny. Now, the choice is yours. Stand together, work together, and rebuild the worlds they sought to control. Humanity will be your ally. Cheers erupted in countless systems. Rebel leaders embraced. Soldiers lowered weapons, and oppressed worlds began to hope. Even former council citizens, seeing the humans' restraint and purpose, understood that this was not conquest, this was restoration. On Saran, empty halls echoed. The High Speaker's seat was vacant. Delegates surrendered one by one, unsure what to do next. Soren looked over the chamber and nodded. It is over, he whispered. The humans have returned. And they have won. Back on Haven, Mira watched. The stars. The galaxy was no longer under the shadow of the council. Freed worlds would take time to heal. But the future was bright. She looked at John and Ren. We have done what no one believed possible, she said. Earth was gone, but humanity returned. We endured, we fought, and we have shown the galaxy what it means to be human. John smiled. And they will never forget it. Ren nodded. 500,000 years of waiting has led to this. We have restored balance, and we have reminded the universe that humanity does not bow. Mira turned to the window, her eyes on the distant stars. The council is gone. The galaxy is free. And one day, Earth will rise again, not as a memory, but as a symbol of endurance and hope. Humanity has returned, and we will never be forgotten. The stars shone brighter than ever, reflecting the dawn of a new era. Humanity had reclaimed its place in the galaxy. The long wait was over, the revenge complete, and the promise of freedom fulfilled. The galaxy would remember this day for 1,000 generations. Humanity had returned, stronger, wiser, and united, and from the shadows of 500,000 years, a species thought extinct became the hope of the stars. The war was over. The legend of humanity had begun.